Ethan had always believed that after 10 years of marriage, he knew his wife inside and out. But tonight, as he watched Rachel sit across from him at the dinner table, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the rim of her wine glass, he felt an unsettling distance between them. The air was thick with something unsaid. "Ethan," she finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. "I've been thinking a lot about us." He set his fork down, the steak on his plate suddenly unappetizing. "Okay," he said cautiously. "What's on your mind?" Rachel took a deep breath, her hazel eyes flickering with uncertainty before she straightened her posture. "I feel trapped." Ethan blinked, his heart skipping a beat. "Trapped," he echoed, his mind racing. "What does that mean?" She sighed, rubbing her temples as if she had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. "I love you, Ethan. I do. But I feel like I've lost myself. Like I've been living my life according to expectations instead of my own desires." A cold knot tightened in his stomach. "What are you saying, Rachel?" She met his gaze then, and he saw it, the determination, the restlessness. "I need freedom," she said. "I don't want to leave you, but I want to explore other possibilities." The words hit him like a wrecking ball. His fingers curled into fist under the table. "Are you asking me for a divorce?" "No," she said quickly, shaking her head. "I don't want to end our marriage. I just want to experience more without giving up what we have." Ethan's jaw clenched. "You want an open marriage?" Rachel hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." For a moment, the room was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. Ethan stared at his wife, the woman he had built a life with, made sacrifices for, and felt like he didn't recognize her. "You're saying you still love me," he said, his voice eerily calm. "But you also want to sleep with other people." Rachel exhaled, looking away. "It's not just about that. It's about feeling alive again. I need this, Ethan." Ethan let out a slow breath, suppressing the rage clawing at his chest. He could have exploded, could have begged her to reconsider, but instead a strange clarity settled over him. "All right," he said, his voice steady. "You want freedom. You can have it." Rachel's face lit up with relief until he leaned in, H's eyes dark with something unreadable, but only under one condition. Ethan barely slept that night. Rachel's words replayed in his head like a broken record. "I need freedom. I want to explore. I still love you." Love. Was this what love looked like? His wife, the woman he had devoted a decade of his life to, asking for permission to be with other men while still keeping him as her safety net. Anger simmered in his veins, but he forced himself to stay rational. Lashing out wouldn't solve anything. He needed to be smart. By morning, he had his answer. Rachel was in the kitchen, humming softly as she sipped her coffee. She looked lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. The sight made Ethan's stomach turn, but he kept his expression neutral. "I've been thinking about what you said," he started, his voice measured. Rachel looked up, hopeful, and, "I won't stop you." Her lips parted slightly in surprise. "You mean that?" Ethan nodded. "If this is what you truly want, I won't stand in your way." Relief flooded her face. "Ethan, But he cut her off, leaning against the counter. "There's one condition." She hesitated, her mug hovering midair. "What kind of condition?" "Absolute honesty," Ethan said firmly. "No secrets, no lies. Every single detail you tell me, everything." Rachel blinked, then let out a small, nervous laugh. "You really want to know everything?" "Everything," he repeated, locking eyes with her. "Who, where, when, no exceptions." Rachel hesitated for only a moment before nodding eagerly. "Okay," she said, smiling. "If that's what it takes to make this work, then I agree." Ethan smiled back, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Good," he thought, "then let's play this game." Over the next week, Rachel wasted no time enjoying her newfound freedom. She went out more often, stayed out later, and her phone was suddenly glued to her hand. True to their deal, she told Ethan about her outings, though always with an air of careful wording. Just drinks with a friend, she'd say nothing serious. Ethan listened, nodded, and never argued, but he noticed things. The way she avoided eye contact when she spoke. The way she conveniently left out certain details until he asked. And so, while Rachel thought she was in control, Ethan was quietly gathering his own power. He didn't fight her choices. He didn't beg her to change her mind. Instead, he started making moves of his own. Because if Rachel wanted freedom, she would get it. But she would also learn that true freedom comes with consequences. Rachel wasted no time diving into her newfound freedom. Within days, her schedule was filled with girls' nights, work events, and just catching up with an old friend. She came home later, her perfume lingering stronger than usual, her phone constantly buzzing with messages she quickly dismissed. Ethan, however, remained composed. He played the role of the understanding husband, perfectly, never questioning her, never showing anger. Instead, he adapted. If Rachel was going to play this game, so was he. He started hitting the gym, pushing his body in ways he hadn't in years. Every early morning run, every weight he lifted, fueled his growing resolve. He refined his wardrobe, updated his haircut, and reconnected with old acquaintances, especially female ones. He wasn't looking for revenge. No, this was about control. It was about understanding how easily the tables could turn. And they did. Soon, Ethan started getting attention smiles from the barista, lingering glances at the gym, invitations from colleagues to after-work drinks. And the moment Rachel noticed, something shifted. At first, it was subtle. She started texting more while she was out, asking what he was up to. She'd return home earlier than usual, hovering in the kitchen, watching him a little too closely as he scrolled through his phone. Then, one evening, it happened. Ethan was getting ready to leave for a night out, nothing major, just a casual dinner with a few friends. As he buttoned his shirt, Rachel leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "Where are you going?" she asked, her tone carefully neutral. "Just out for dinner," Ethan replied, adjusting his collar in the mirror. "With who?" he turned, raising an eyebrow. "Why do you ask?" Rachel hesitated before forcing a smile. "No reason, just curious." "Liar." Ethan merely nodded, giving nothing away. He could see it now, the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, the way she was gripping her own wrist. She was feeling it, the shift. She had expected him to wait, to accept his role as the man left behind while she explored her options. But now, she was realizing she wasn't the only one who could play this game. And the best part, she still believed he wasn't onto her lies. Ethan had been watching closely, piecing things together, the subtle inconsistencies in her stories, the change in her behavior. She wasn't as honest as she had promised to be. So he stayed quiet, let her think she was still winning. Because the longer she played dirty, the bigger the fallout would be when he made his move. Rachel had never expected this. She thought she had secured the perfect arrangement, her loving husband at home, while she explored the excitement she felt she had been missing. What she hadn't anticipated was that Ethan would change, that he would start to thrive. At first, she brushed it off. His gym routine, his renewed energy, the casual way he dressed a little sharper, it was harmless. But then he started going out more often, and worse, he seemed happy. The shift became undeniable when she walked into the kitchen one evening and found him texting, a faint smirk on his lips. "Who's that?" she asked, forcing her tone to stay light. Ethan glanced up, his expression unreadable. "Just a friend." Something about the way he said it made her stomach twist. A friend, the same excuse she had used countless times. But now, it was him saying it. Rachel tried to ignore the gnawing feeling inside her. She had gotten what she wanted, hadn't she? She was still free to see whoever she wanted. And yet, she hated this. She hated the way Ethan no longer looked at her with longing. The way he didn't ask where she was going. And most of all, she hated that someone else had his attention. The breaking point came on a Friday night. Rachel had canceled her plan. She wasn't in the mood for a date, not when her husband was slipping further from her grasp. She had planned a cozy evening in, hoping they could reconnect, but Ethan had other plans. She watched as he stepped out of the bedroom, adjusting his watch, looking effortlessly confident. "Going somewhere?" she asked, trying to keep her voice casual. "Dinner," Ethan said simply. With who? He met her gaze. "Why do you ask?" Rachel's throat tightened. He was playing the same game she had played. She let out a shaky laugh. "Maybe we should talk." "I think we should, set new boundaries." Ethan tilted his head, his lips curling into something that wasn't quite a smile. "New boundaries? Why? I thought you wanted freedom." Rachel swallowed hard. "I do. Ethan cut her off. "Rachel, stop." His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and tapped the screen. "Let's talk about honesty," he said, turning the screen toward her. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. It was all there. Messages, lies, plans she had conveniently forgotten to tell him about. Her hands trembled. "Ethan, I save it, he said coldly. You wanted freedom, Rachel. Well, now I do too. And with that, he walked out the door, leaving her alone with the consequences of her own game. Rachel sat in the dimly lit living room, her hands gripping the edge of the couch. The silence in the house was suffocating. It had been 2 days since Ethan had confronted her, since he had walked out with that look of quiet betrayal in his eyes. And now, he was finally home. He stood in front of her, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. We need to settle this, he said. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it, one that told her he was done playing games. Rachel's throat was dry. Ethan, he held up a hand. No more excuses, no more justifications. I'm giving you two choices. She swallowed hard. You either commit to this marriage, fully, and honestly, he continued, his gaze locking onto hers. No more half-truths. No more looking elsewhere. Or, he exhaled sharply. You get the freedom you wanted. Completely. Without me. Rachel felt the weight of his words like a punch to the gut. This was it. For weeks, she had reveled in the illusion of control, believing she could have everything: her marriage, her freedom, her excitement. But now, staring at the man she had taken for granted, she realized she had never considered the possibility of actually losing him. Tears welled in her eyes. Ethan, please, she whispered. I was wrong. I got caught up in something. But I don't want to lose you. I don't. Ethan studied her, but his face remained impassive. And how do I know that, Rachel? How do I know that if I take you back, you won't start craving freedom again 6 months from now? She shook her head furiously. Because I've seen what I almost lost. I was selfish. I was stupid. But I swear I'm done with all of it. Ethan let out a slow breath, rubbing his jaw. I want to believe you, he admitted. I really do. Rachel reached for his hand, desperate. Then believe me. Ethan hesitated just for a second before pulling his hand away. And that's when she saw it. That flicker of doubt in his eyes. No, not doubt, something else. Realization struck her like ice in her veins. There's someone else, isn't there? She whispered. Ethan didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but firm. I didn't go looking for it, he said. But yeah, there's someone. And she makes me feel like I'm worth more than just a backup plan. Rachel felt the air leave her lungs. For the first time since this entire mess had started, she wasn't the one in control. She had wanted freedom. Now she had to find out if she was too late to fix what she had broken.